Hello everyone. Today I thought I would talk a little bit about suspension, respringing the S1000R with DDC suspension, electronic suspension. Now I've just gone through this exercise during the winter, so I sprung the front and rebuilt the rear shock, got a completely new shock, new springs, new internals, everything, still retaining the DDC function. So I'm just going to go through a little bit about why I did this and the initial results so far. I mean, it's pretty early in the season. I've had the bike out maybe four little trips, so I'm still getting to know the bike again. So let's just dive into the front. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with this. There's an electronic adjuster on this fork, and then this is manual, and then you have a preload adjuster here, and that's basically all the adjustment you have for the front on this bike. And then obviously you have the suspension button here where you select soft, normal, and hard. And there's also an added function for a passenger. Let's just go down and look at the fork. So with the original spring, my zip tie, this is with the new spring, my zip tie was about 10 millimeters lower than this. So I was all the way down here. Now, I measured the fork using one of Dave Moss's videos, so it's got a very good channel. I recommend that if you're into suspension. And he basically said that you extend the fork, you measure everything, you measure the length, which for this bike was 130 millimeters. Then you look in the manual and you see that you got 120 millimeter travel available, and your bottom out will be from the bottom of this casting here and 10 millimeters up for this bike. So when my zip tie was 14 millimeters off the top during, shall we say, sporty street riding, I was 4 millimeters from bottoming out the shocks, and I did at a couple of occasions. So yeah, I know I was really close. So what I did, I contacted a company called Triple Tuning in Germany, which I think after dealing with them, they're actually part of Wilbur's, so they are Wilbur's. The lady that I was sending emails with had both a Triple Tuning address and a Wilbur's address, so obviously same company, different department. So anyway, I asked Wilbur's to provide me a setup for a 100 kilogram rider, which is 220, 230 pounds, I think. So they sent me their 9 Newton meter spring, which I replaced late season last year when my bike was due for a service. So I did a complete fork service and I replaced the springs. And then I planned to do the shock as a winter project, because that was a €1,000 upgrade, so not really cheap. So just my way of spreading cost a little bit. Now, don't do that. If you're going to do anything to the DDC system on a bike like this, don't do the back, don't do the front, do both at the same time, because the bike was absolutely terrible with just the front fixed. So, but let's just get into it. So I got a 9 Newton meter spring. They have a 8.5, a 9, and a 9.5 Newton meter spring available. So the 9 Newton meter spring, I have now set that 4 turns in on preload, and my sag figure is 10 millimeters, and I'm now 25 millimeters from the bottom here. So now I got about 15 millimeters to bottom out, so I'm safe. Now, since I touched on sag, with the original spring, I had the sag adjuster completely wind in, so max preload, and still I had like 24 millimeters of sag. Now BMW measures sag a little bit different. Basically, they look at the bike when it's on itself or on its own weight. So, and then with the weight of the rider, and then you measure the difference, and it's supposed to be 6 to 10 millimeters. So it's a little different from conventional ways of measuring sag, but yeah, that's just how BMW does it. So my bike compressed a full 24 millimeters when I sat on it with the original spring, and with the new spring, 4 turns in, I'm at 10. When I went max, I was at 6. So obviously, someone being 230, 40, 50 pounds could easily use the same spring as me and get within spec. Now, the problem that I had when I had the shock fixed, the shock spring installed, and not done anything with the rear, was that the front got really, really hard and the soft got very soft. So the bike was pretty much like pivoting around the fork. So cornering was just really terrible. You could just feel the rear going up and down through the corners. Every time you accelerated out of a corner, the rear would just compress a lot and the front didn't. So the bike was just really, really horrible to ride. So again, that's basically why I'm saying do not, under any circumstance, change just the front or just the rear, because it'll upset the whole system. So get everything set up for you, and then you should be fine. And then for the rear, like I said, that was a pretty costly deal. So Wilbur's has supplied, or basically rebuilt, a stock shock, put new stuff on it. I got slow and fast compression dampening adjustment on it now, manual. It still has the electronic function, still retains the DDC 100%, so there's no change, but this is just so that you can do some individual tuning once you get to know the bike properly. For the original spring, I had the preload adjuster. I had that one completely at maximum, and my sag was about 29-30 millimeters. BMW says that you should have 21 to 24. Now with this new rebuilt shock, I'm 8 turns in and there's 23 turns adjustment. So I'm 8 turns in and I'm at 24. So perfect. And as an additional bonus, I mean, when I actually changed between the modes now, there's a significant difference in how the suspension is. I mean, it's way soft, and in hard it gets really hard. So for me, it was getting on this bike afterwards, after all the stuff was changed out this winter. It was kind of like riding one of those super sport bikes, because they are generally set up with a stiffer suspension, but it's stiff in a good way. So driving around the road now, it just absorbs all the little bumps a lot better than the stock suspension. So, because I guess the stock suspension basically hydrolocked, and so the spring wasn't able to take up the force, so the hydraulics had to take up the force, and it just went rock hard. So it was like really bouncy ride going on the motorways and all that. And now that's just hugely improved. I mean, the bike is much more comfortable to ride, and it feels much more easy to corner. It's more stable. It doesn't move as much. It doesn't compress the rear and keep the front. And so it's just, the whole bike is now just set up a lot better. Now, I probably haven't done more than maybe 400 or 500 kilometers on it with the new suspension. So I'm still adapting to the way the bike is, but it's a huge difference. So even though it did cost a fair bit of money, I mean, it was €1,000 for the rear, and then the front fork was, I think it was €140 for the springs, then the extra price of the fork service, the oil and everything that the shop did. So basically I just took it as part of the annual service on the bike. So I don't know exactly how much it cost, but you're probably looking at, I don't know, 12 to 1,400 euros to do this modification, and to me it's well worth it. It's just fantastic. If you're a bit heavy, the bike just transforms. It's a completely different bike after this. So I feel safe, and everything is just so much better than stock. So anyway, that was my little summary of why I resprung my bike. And as a little teaser, here's my next project. Putting on a new exhaust system. So that's going to be my next little pet project. So this is an S1000R set of headers, which has a lot smaller catalytic converter, and a Cobra slip-on for an S1000R. So that's going to go on this bike, and hopefully it's going to give me a little bit more noise and a very nice sounding bike. So stay tuned for that video, and have a good day. Thanks for watching.